Hey everybody, I am on the line right now with a man you're familiar with for his time in WWE, TNA wrestling. He's been around the world, and right now he is your new NWA national champion, Trevor Murdoch. How you doing?
Good, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you taking the time. As I
No
mentioned,
problem.
you are the new NWA national champion. How you feeling after not only getting another shot at that championship, but really getting back to work after a few months off?
Well, when COVID hit, things were on pace. Again, like you said, man, I was going to the Crockett Cup. I was going to have my rematch with Aaron Stevens, and then when COVID hit, it it obviously brought a lot of concern on my end of whether or not I was going to get that opportunity again. We were really on fire, and thankfully, the NWA, they realized that that match needed to happen again, and the people were asking for it. And even though it took us 6 months to get back to it, the fans were still hot and fired up for it and behind it. And it was a great moment in my career. It's something I've worked for a long time. Uh, I've always, I guess, been classified as an old school guy, and NWA's always been had a place in my heart, especially because of Harley. So to be a champ for the NWA is the top in my opinion, the top in my business. Um, when it comes to COVID, since I've lost or since I've won the title, and whether or not I'm going to defend it or not, um, right now I'm kind of in a holding pattern when it comes to who I'm going to wrestle next because of COVID. We want to make it big and make it mean something, so I'm in a little bit of a holding pattern, but I'm definitely trying to get out there as soon as I can to step into the ring and defend my title.
I know you worked a little bit, you know, within Harley's Harley's promotion, but I know you did some work there and locally in your area. But you actually considered yourself retired. I didn't realize that at the time, but looking back, you announced your retirement, and I think you touched a little bit on the answer, but you know, was the NWA's return really what kind of brought you out of retirement? And
Oh, completely,
like
completely.
like is it the brand?
I Excuse me.
Is it the brand, like the tradition and
Of course, that was a part of it. It was. It really came down to NWA saying, "Hey," they had literally convinced me to come. I met up with at Harley's funeral. The NWA showed up. The current NWA national champion, or heavyweight champion, sorry, Nick Aldis and Dave Lagana at the time was the executive producer. They showed up and they said, just come to one taping, come down, bring your gear, but we ain't got a match booked for you. Probably have you just agent some other matches. And, but just come down. And literally it took them, almost a half an hour to try to convince me because I just kind of felt like maybe my time had passed, in the business. And, they really, they really convinced me that wasn't the case at all. And when I flew down to Atlanta and showed up at the GPB studios, uh, the first thing they asked me was, "Do you have your gear?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm a wrestler." They go, "Okay, well tonight your wrestling starts." And I had a great match with Ricky, and I come to the back, and my confidence is up, and I kind of got pulled to the side and said, "You got way more in the tank than what you think, and we think there's some longevity with you. We'd like to have you stick around." And with the response I got from the people, it it wasn't hard to come back. You know what I mean? I was on my
Mhm.
way out, but it really wasn't hard to say, yeah, I'll come back for the next show. You know what I mean? And excuse me,
Mhm.
it's the people have kind of willed me back into existence, man, to be honest with you.
I remember reading about this, But you said Vince McMahon held you back, you and Lance Cade, because of appearances. And AEW, even TNA, but really NWA seems like they embrace any kind of athlete, especially if you can talk, especially if you look like the guys of old. And James Storm is one of them. You came to mind. Eddie Kingston. I mean, what else can you say about him? But is that like really what it was? Like, just, NWA, like you have the connection with Harley Race, but you kind of fit the mold of what a champion, or maybe what like a blue collar wrestler should be.
That was part of it. We as wrestling fans, WWE has kind of what's the best way I can put it? Like, they've normalized the fact that a wrestler has to be jacked, cut up, abs, just this beautiful physical specimen, and that every wrestler has to be that way or they're not a star. That's how we've been conditioned to think that. And that's because for so long, WWE had a stronghold as being the number one company in the world. And so as a fan, you think, well, man, if this guy's not jacked, this guy's not cut, he's not a superstar. And the company wouldn't push those guys either. So it wasn't hard for you to think that maybe they weren't stars, which it obviously is not the case. There are so many talented wrestlers out there that look their part, and that may not be a guy who's chiseled and has 3% body fat. It's NWA is a place for guys to go and get over. It's for guys to go out there and be real. I know with one of my first couple matches, I asked, the standard questions, what are you guys looking for? Is there something that you guys are wanting me to do? And their only response was, go out and do you. Go out and be you. There was no restrictions, obviously use some common sense, man. Don't go out there and dropping F-bombs every chance you get and flipping people off. You know what I mean? It's still a family show, but that's a very freeing feeling for somebody, for a wrestler who's kind of been shackled into you have to be this way because this is the way it's. No, that's not the case. And what NWA's done is given those guys like myself and the people you just talked about an opportunity and a platform to showcase those skills. And now everybody thinks it's the fucking coolest thing since sliced bread. But guys like me, Eddie Kingston, some other guys, we've been around for a long time. It's just we finally had somebody put a camera in our face and a microphone and say, go do you.
Yeah, and I think more to your point, and if you look at wrestling in general, like, yeah, WWE's maybe eased up on that definition of what a wrestler can be, but it still feels like even now there's like a ceiling for certain guys. Like, they can be this in NXT, but then when they get called over to Raw and SmackDown, it still almost feels like, okay, we brought you this far, but this is the type of wrestler we see you as. Right. Sometimes it's disappointing, and you thought that maybe it changed, but it really hasn't in some cases.
Well, and hopefully one day that will change, and it would be good for everybody, business wise, wrestlers and fans. But you notice once you take those restrictions off, there's the reason why wrestling used to be so wildly popular was because when you sat down and watched a wrestling program, if you didn't like the match or the guys that were going on, the next guys were completely different and you might enjoy the next match that's coming up. There was not only characters, but just different physical body types, things that different characteristics that guys were a lot stronger in different areas. If that makes any sense, they were able to stand out. You had a huge variety when it came to the show. And now it seems like the only variety that's really out there is the storylines. And it's not you got to have the whole package. You got to have the workers, everything, man.
We just talked about, you know, them talking you into coming back, and, you know, what kind of went into your decision to step back in the ring. But now that you have a few matches under your belt and you are a champion, like what does it mean to you that the NWA or the UWN has put so much trust in your ability and, you know, put a belt on you at this stage in your career?
Well, it's first and foremost, it's shot my confidence up, 10,000 fold. And secondly, you know, man, like this is what ultimately every wrestler's been waiting for is a company to believe in you and get behind you and let you go out and do what you do. For me, it's the hard work starts now. Like, yeah, it was, I learned my lesson a long time ago. I kind of always told myself, I always thought like the whole push and the drive and the fight to get to WWE would be the hardest, would be my hardest obstacles in the business. But once I got to WWE, I realized the hardest part was staying there, not just getting there, it's staying there. And that really opened up my eyes, and I've carried that experience to now. Whereas, yeah, I'm in a position for people to notice me and for me to represent the company, but I've got to also do something with it too. You know what I mean? I can't just sit back and go, oh, thank you. And you know, I have some things that I want to prove to a lot of people, and I also want to produce for the company. Like, that's, to be a champion, man. You've got to produce for the company where they can be beneficial, whether it be on TV, merchandise, whatever. Thankfully, you know, ratings are doing well, and when I go on there, so I'm still a benefit. But I want to give back. I want to make it mean something. I want when this time is over, when I, you know, hopefully in a couple of years when I lose the title, it meant something. You know what I mean? And that's why I keep saying the hard work truly starts right now.
I mean, it was your decision to step away, and then you came back. COVID happens. It's out of your hands. You get another chance now where you're starting to work again. Have you, like, title or not, have you really given any thought as to how long this is going to last this time around?
I have no idea. That's where my experience comes into play. When I was a younger guy, that was the first thing that popped in my head. You know what? When I won championships or when I had great opportunities, like, oh shit, when's this going to end? I'm actually completely opposite on this. I'm thankful, and I'm going to take advantage of every day that I have with this, and makes every day, and kind of, you know, I really want to just kind of take it all in. What's the best way? I mean, I don't want to drop it. I'm the national heavyweight champion. Like, I'm not looking at how I'm going to lose it or what I'm going to do after that. I'm just enjoying it now. I'm taking every day and enjoying today, because just like with COVID, man, we have no control over what's going. We all think so, but we have no control over what's going to happen to them tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate your perspective on how things are going now, and it kind of leads me into my next question, because early in your career, when we first, you know, really saw you on TV, you almost immediately won the WWE tag team titles. So, like, if you can think back to your mindset back then, like, what was that like, being kind of thrust into the spotlight like that, and then it seemed like the tag title win happened almost as quick as like the breakup, and then the reunion, and then the breakup. It was like,
bro, it was a roller coaster. It was a roller coaster, man. Really. It was the only time in my whole career that I really had zero control over my career. And when things are going great, that's awesome. It's no problem. When things are going bad and you got no control over it, it's really the shits. When I won the titles the first time, I was excited. When I won the tag belts the first time, I was excited. I couldn't believe it, because it wasn't but 2 or 3 months before that, I was just doing independent shows, you know, just hoping to get an opportunity. So I I was certainly excited, but if you look at that first title run, we literally dropped the belts the next pay-per-view. And that to me was kind of like seeing the, you know, the wizard behind the curtain. Cause I was like, holy shit. Like I worked all this time. I mean, cause I invested almost 8 years before that in the business trying to get here. And I finally get here. I make this monumental jump and I become world tag team champion. And in 4 weeks, it's just pulled away for no reason, no explanation. We have, you know, we later found out that it was because of a stupid argument with a head producer. And that kind of shit like really bothered me. I was like, wow, like to kill the momentum of a hot tag team because of a disagreement in the back. It really soured me on that whole company. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now and
I'm sure that'll be the headline that gets put out there. Trevor Murdoch sours on WWE.
not on my end.
Okay.
But no, I wanted to ask, was it just the tag title run ending, or was it the team splitting up too because of that? Like if you wanted
it was right after. It was the team was split not too long after that, and they were certain individuals were pumping my head that I was going to go for an intercontinental run. This is the direction you were going to go. And we were leading that direction. If you go back, you see I started having matches with Ric Flair, and he was the IC champ at the time. And then the bottom kind of fell out of that with no explanation. And then, you know, Cade and I, that whole time, Cade and I are arguing and fighting in the back with the office, trying to get them to put us back together because we were successful. And sure enough, they do put us back together, and we are successful, going out there killing it. And then we get not booked, like we're off TV out of nowhere. And that leads to the comment you had made earlier about like Vince holding us back. And it all came down to we were pulled off TV and we were throwing ideas to the writers, and every week we were just getting just shut down. Like, no. And we hit up one of the writers one day and we're like, we keep giving you guys ideas. You guys are coming up with ideas. Who's shutting this down? And they straight up told, it's Vince. Vince is shutting this. Okay. So me and Lance go track down Vince. And it was one of the few times that we saw him in catering by himself. And we sat down with him. Lance was on one side, I'm on the other side. And we just asked him outright, you know, the writers are throwing ideas at you. We're throwing ideas at you, and you keep shooting us down. What is it that you are not happy with when it comes to us? And he pulled his glasses down, looked at both of us, and he looked at Lance, who had black hair at the time. And he goes, I hate your fake black hair. And he looked at me and he goes, I don't like your pasty white skin. We said, okay, got up. The next fucking day, I'm tan. And my partner's got bleach blonde fried hair because he went from jet black to straight blonde, completely frying his hair. Sure enough, Vince gets a picture of it. That next week, we're on TV. And it's like, this is what my career has come to, is that I can't be successful because somebody can't send a text or a message or a heads up as you're walking past me down the hallway. Like, you know, and it just seemed like it just boulder got bigger and bigger of just the crap that I didn't understand when it comes to the business. Like, it's totally unnecessary. Like, being away from your family, taking bumps every night is hard enough. And then to deal with that kind of stuff felt very childish to me. And maybe it's just me. I'm the type of individual that I would prefer you to be upfront and honest with me. Like, you're not going to hurt my feelings being honest with me, because it's the only way I can get better at anything, whether it be a personal relationship, whether it be a business relationship. If there's an issue, bring it up to the forefront. Let's talk about it and move on. So there's no animosity. There's no bullshit. And that's just how I live my life. So when I was confronted with those situations, it seemed very childish to me. It seemed very unnecessary, and you couldn't get away from it because you're dealing with it like the top dog. Like, he's the one that's doing it. You know, who do you complain to when it's the boss.
Yeah. So, I mean, it would seem like you are telling me now, like you guys were really vocal about wanting to be a team. Did you ever make a push to really like stay together, or was it really when you guys like solo put us
like,
back together?
When they broke us up and put us back together the second time, it was us going to Johnny every week because I was running singles matches with Chavo Guerrero, and Lance was running different singles matches with Dustin, Gene Snitsky, and they weren't doing, like, for a month. They broke us up and then didn't do anything with either one of us for like a month. Like, no, there was no reason behind the breakup. They announced it one day while I'm walking down to the ramp for a singles match. Oh, Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch broke up. And we're like, holy shit, guys, we were your newest tag team, came in, won the tag belts, and then you just quietly split us up. So the whole time we're in the back, we're telling Johnny, at least book us on the house shows. If they're not going to put us on TV or do anything, book us as a team on the house shows. And he did that for a couple of weeks, and then we had a European tour come up. And neither Cade and I weren't booked on it. And as a wrestler, you make a lot of money when it comes to going overseas. So you want to be on those tours. And we run to Johnny and we're like, hey, why aren't we on this booking sheet? And he's like, I've got no room for 2 more singles matches. And we're like, we'll be overseas. Just put us as a team. I said, have us wrestle your tag team champs. We'll put them over every night. Like, just put us together as a team overseas and let us go work so we can at least make the payday. Mm-hmm. And he said, okay, that's fine. I'll do that. And Lance and I got such great reactions while we were overseas and got such rave reviews from the actual agents on the shows that when they came back, the office had kept hearing that Cade and Murdoch are killing it here. They're killing it. They had a great match with this person, a great match with that person. When we got back to the States, they were like, we're going to go ahead and just put you guys back together and we're going to start having you guys go, with a run, mm-hmm. And it's like, shit, guys, if, again, I sound like I'm bitching and complaining because I had great times there and I made great money with there. And if it wasn't for WWE, I wouldn't have the national notoriety that I have now. But it just seemed like a lot of just unnecessary bullshit just to be successful. You know what I mean? And just to literally come back to the same thing that was working.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like when I talk to a lot of tag teams, it's more constant with teams. Like, and I don't understand it, like, especially coming from your era of the tag division and then right after that, it always seemed like tag teams were secondary, even though people wanted it. And, coming out of the 80s when you had a very deep division and it's one of those things that I don't think we're ever going to make sense of. Like, I don't work there, so of course I'm not going to understand,
right.
The person writing the checks.
If you look at every other company, though, tag teams killing it. Mm-hmm. Tag teams are killing it. You know what I mean? People are excited about watching the tag team matches, and they're going out there and they're being let go and they're killing it. You know what I mean? I'll go for just the NWA tag team champ, Eli Drake and James Storm. Those guys, when they get in the ring, they're magic. When you look at FTR, Cash and
was it Dax and Cash?
Yes, I was going trying to, their other names. I got tongue tied, but they're killing it. You know what I mean? You had the Good Brothers who just recently lost tag belts in TNA. They're killing it. Tag team wrestling's off the charts, man. And it's sad that, there's companies, really fantastic teams in that company that are kind of sitting on the wayside right now when they could be utilized.
I do want to jump back into 2 things that I really enjoyed about your solo career. One of them, working with Ric Flair, because that, I feel like that run that he had in WWE at that time was very underrated, where he was still performing at a really high level, Intercontinental title. He worked with a lot of the up and coming Raw talent. I remember Carlito was another one of them. What was that like for you? Just, with your history and appreciation for the NWA getting a chance to work with Ric Flair?
Well, it was you do my whole career with Harley. You know, when I had to watch tapes of Harley, you know, half of them were with Ric Flair. And when you're in the same locker room with him and you're asking him questions, just kind of picking his brain, he's still, 16-time world heavyweight champion.
Mm-hmm.
And then to see your booking sheet and to realize that you're going to start working shows against him. I got turned back into that, 10-year-old little boy that used to watch world-class wrestling as a kid. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Also, too, it was a nice rib to walk into Harley and go, well, now there's two guys in this school that wrestled Ric Flair. And, and of course, Harley, come back. Did you go a fucking hour with him, though? No, sir. No, sir. It's moments like that make you, as a wrestler, that have to deal with just the bullshit of just missing your family and the road life and all that. It's moments like that make it worth it. You know what I mean? Because ain't nobody can ever take that away from me. There's footage out there of it. I've got trading cards with him, with me and Ric Flair. Ain't nobody can take that away from me. You know what I mean? And it's something that I'll always treasure. And it was also just really cool for me at times just to kind of shut up and just listen to him in the ring. Mm-hmm. And it made me feel like, man, like I wish I could have went back to when he was at his 100 on his game 110%, but this is as close as I'm going to get. So I'm just going to listen and enjoy it and try to make the best match out of it that I can. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was an awesome moment in my career.
The other thing I wanted to touch on is you had a brief gimmick as the singer, like the cowboy singer, and then you did some movie reviews. So how much of that was your idea? How much was it a collaboration? Like how did that come about? Because I remember the singing got over.
It did get over. Well, that's a two-part question. On the movie reviews, that was in that time frame where I was telling you where like Lance and I were kind of floating the singles wrestlers. They had split us up, didn't know what to do with us. And I forgot who it was that tracked me down. No, I know for sure. At first it was Brooklyn Brawler because he used to do all the little vignettes and videos in the back. I remember him tracking me down. He's like, hey man, you got to be in video in about 2 hours. I was like, what for? He goes, we'll talk about it when you get there. And WWE used to have you do these little like intros on their videos and just, check out Starrcade 96, whatever. You would just do these little tidbits for overseas stuff. So that's what I thought it was. And I got in there and I forgot what writer I was with, but they proceeded to inform me that I was going to start doing movie reviews. And I was like, all right, like, okay, you guys are the pros when it comes to getting somebody over. Who am I going to argue with? And I was like, okay, what movies do you guys want me to watch next week or this week? And they're like, no, you're going to do one now. And I'm like, on what? And I forgot what that first movie review was, but I had no clue. I'd never seen the movie, and they just gave me verbiage, and I read it, and I was like, I didn't feel, people obviously believed I felt like people thought I was bullshitting because I hadn't seen the movie. Mm-hmm. Well, then the next week I get something. I get Dusty comes in, and I'm excited now. I'm like, oh man, they got Dusty in here working with me. He goes and he's laughing. He's got this chuckle about him. And he goes, baby, you're going to do a movie review today. I'm working with you. And I said, right on, right on. I was like, what movie we got? And he's just laughing. He goes, you ever heard of Brokeback Mountain, baby? Yeah, I've heard about that movie. Well, we're going to do a movie review today. And I had never seen it because it just wasn't my type of movie at the time. And, but of course I'm on TV on record saying I love that show. It's a love story, but you people totally took it out of context, and just trying to be goofy and get over. But they just never seemed to go anywhere. You know what I mean? It was nobody ever really, like, they all laughed. Everybody laughed each week when they'd have me do one, but we never turned it into anything. On the music part, that came down to Lance and I doing a little investigating work, because we had already been split up 2 times before that. And we had started getting the feeling of like it was happening again. Like the writers were kind of being a little, not shady with us, but they just weren't giving us a lot of information. And Cade and I finally, like, we went to Sean and we were like, Sean, are they going to split us up? And he's like, I'll go find out, and sure enough, he come back. He's like, yeah, that's the plan. Mm-hmm. But they hadn't done it yet. So it gave me and Cade some time to kind of like just on the fly think of something that we can start doing to kind of go our separate ways and kind of be over on our own. You know what I mean? And Cade and I were just talking, and I was like, man, I don't know what I need to do. I was going through everything. And Cade goes, you ought to sing. And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I heard you. We would at times go to certain venues when we were on the road and have some beverages and do karaoke. And I get a little liquored up and get behind the microphone. Everybody sounds good when they're liquored up, but I didn't think nothing of it. And he goes, you're good enough for this place. He goes, you ought to do something with that. And that's where, like, the idea, originally my idea was I would start coming out like, John Cena used to rap about his opponents. And like when he was the original the Thug John Cena, when he first came out, he would bury his opponents in his rap. And I was like, all right, I can come up with something each week about a different opponent to sing about. All I got to do is find the right song and put different words to it, and it'll, pop the crowd. So now I've realized what I'm going to do. Now I've got to get it accomplished. So I go on the hunt for Vince. Vince is the only person that's going to understand this. He's the only person that's going to be able to do anything about it. So all day I'm looking for Vince, and he's constantly surrounded by people. And so I feel like I'm stalking him, and I am, actually, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. And he would started walking towards his office, and I just kind of beat the next person behind him and kind of put my hand on the door and said, I got to talk to Vince. And I kind of pushed Vince, not push him, but, I followed Vince real closely into his office, shut the door, and I leaned up against the door and I said, Vince, I hear you guys are going to split Cade and I up. I said, I sing karaoke and everybody says I'm pretty good. I said, I'd like to do something with singing, maybe, sing to my opponents down to the ring. And Vince goes, well, sing me a song. And I'm like, here? He goes, yeah, sing me a song. And I was so nervous, man. I'm not going to lie. Like, this is one of the few times, like, I was super nervous. I remember singing a song. I don't remember what it was, but I do remember the reaction. There was like this, it felt like an hour-long pause, but obviously it was only just, a couple, 3 seconds. But he goes, God damn, Trevor, why didn't you tell me you could do this before? Shit. God damn, we're going to do some fucking TV. Jeez. What Christ, you're fucking good. God damn it. What? And I'm now elated. I'm excited. I'm like, oh my God, like the guy doesn't think. I thought, obviously the worst is getting fired, but I didn't want him to yell at me. You're an idiot. What are you thinking? Get out of my office. But he was happy. He was stoked. And I was like, right on, Vince. I was like, thank you. I appreciate your time. I'm going to get out of your way. And I remember walking out of his office happy as hell. And then it hit me. I was like, but I didn't pitch to him what I actually wanted to, like, really, really do with it. Like, what am I going to do with it? Oh, man, now I don't know what I'm going to do on TV. I know I'm singing. I just don't know what. So the next week on TV, I prepare a couple songs that I think would go against, because I know the obvious angle is me and Lance are splitting up. So I need to start coming up with songs that were led towards that idea. You know what I mean? Friends splitting up, whatever. And I don't remember the songs, but I remember coming in, they go, hey, you're going to be singing tonight. And I told them both songs and I sang both songs to them. And Vince didn't like him because he didn't know him. And he's like, oh, Trevor, we got to have a song that everybody knows. You know, it's we need something that's familiar. And I sarcastically just said, you know, like, you mean like something like Friends in Low Places, like Garth Brooks stuff? God, that's fucking perfect, Trevor. Fuck, God, damn it. That's Friends in Low Places. Yeah, everybody likes that song. And that's that's how I after a 10-minute or after an 8-minute match with Lance, I got done, walked over to the announcer's desk. One time I've ever felt bad. I mean, I felt like I was disrespecting JR because I was like, get out of my way. And I stood up on the announcer. I love JR. I never ever want to treat that man badly. And I stood up on the announcer's table and got my breath and sang that song. Again, when I got in the back, everybody's like, that was great. That was awesome. We'll have you sing next week. And nobody had any direction, like would go the direction, because I was telling them this is what I wanted to do. I want to sing to my opponents, but they just wouldn't. They didn't seem to want to do it. And it got to a point where, like, one week I'm singing to the makeup lady and she's not even putting it over. And I'm like, you telling me I can't even get over on the makeup lady? Like, Jesus Christ, you know. And I had Ron. The only thing that saved the segment was Ron Simmons come in after me singing, damn, and walks out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it never, you know, I don't think they ever took it seriously, and it just kind of floundered.
Well, now that period is over and you're obviously on the rise, title run just starting, if there's fans that are just realizing that you're getting back into it, maybe they're tuning into NWA for the first time, like I'll note on the side that I think it was the one where you announced your retirement or announced your comeback, but the article we posted was like one of the top 10 or top 15 most popular articles we posted all year. So you have a following. So what is there a match that you would like maybe coach or prep fans to watch? Maybe like, here's what I've been up to since you last saw me on TV, or one that you're just really proud of as a tag team wrestler or as a singles guy?
There's no one match, because, and here's the reason why. The stuff that I've done with NWA Power, I've been able to tell a story throughout that whole run of a rise of somebody who's just not willing to give up and not willing to take no for an answer. My match, we talk about the television title tournament. You know, I had 3 matches that night, 3 different styles of matches. If I had to tell a fan that's just recently getting back to watching me, I would have them watch the NWA Power series, because I really feel like I'm actually able to be myself now. I think you can see a different Trevor now that you maybe not seen before, and certainly somebody that you can get to know. That's the other super cool thing about NWA is it's a very personal company. You know what I mean? Like, you can really get to see these guys, shake hands with them, know them, who they are. You feel personally connected with them. And if you look at your NWA wrestlers, 99% of them will interact with you on social media, even if it's just a like of a video or a nice comment. You don't get that with other larger companies, you know. NWA is my home, man. That's my place. That's where I fit. And I hope that's where I plan to end my career at. And once I'm done out of the ring, I hope I can stay behind the scenes and help elevate the next crop of people, generation, to that next level.
All right. We'll have to wait and see when your next title defense is, but for now you guys can check out the whole show every week. It's every Tuesday. UWN's Primetime Live. Trevor will be part of it. Nick Aldis, the whole NWA roster. You can catch them week in, week out. Where can fans catch up. There I go again. Started the call like that. Where can fans keep in touch with you? Social media or anything else you got going on?
Instagram and on Twitter, I'm at the Real T Murdoch, and of course on Facebook. You can see my fat head. There's not too many people out there that want to pretend like they're Trevor Murdoch. And I'm really interactive when it comes to social media. Especially right now when I can't be face to face with fans. To me, that's where I make my magic, is when I'm able to interact with the fans and have them be right there and see what's going on. I miss that more than I miss anything.
All right, Trevor Murdoch, thank you very much for your time tonight.
Right on, man. Thank you.